Well, good morning. It's great to see everybody this morning, and it's great to get out of Atlanta. I tell you, it's they call the Pentagon in Washington the Puzzle Palace. I'm not so sure right now. We aren't in a puzzle palace as well. Let me just first of all publicly thank Carvey Snell for running our column in the paper every week and helping me keep in touch with y'all. And some of you get it by email, but Carvey's very faithful about doing that, and I appreciate it. He also did a good job this week in putting an ad in there, a survey in there that I hope that you'll it's in this week's paper, that you'll take the time to cut it out and fill it out. In fact, a couple of folks gave me theirs just a few minutes ago, and they did a good job of it. And it's my way of trying to get some sense of how people feel. And we'll talk about in a minute some of the challenges that we face, but I would just tell you that nobody's made any decisions. That's our problem. We stopped 2 weeks this week just to try to catch our breath and see, where all the options are and where we should go from here. But it is interesting so far. I may refer to some of the trends that I see in people's thinking maybe after we get to questions. Let me just take a minute. I don't want to be too dire, and I don't want to be too negative, because I really think our state's got an awful lot to be thankful for, and I think we're really going to be one of the top 4 states in the country in growth over the next 20 years. But having said that, we've got a real challenge, and here's why. If I talk to you, and it's those of you who are in business, in some cases, and I hope it's not true, but in many, many cases, businesses are smaller than they were 2 or 3 years ago. The national economy has had a pretty tremendous effect in Georgia, and the state government and state revenues have followed that trend dramatically, actually. We've reduced from about a $21 billion proposed budget 2.5 years ago to something around $16 billion. That will be the level next year. We've dropped, just to put it in percentages, we're 25% smaller today than we were 2.5 years ago from a revenue standpoint. Basically, the short version we call them revenues, you call them taxes. That's what they are. We get half of all of our state revenues from the personal income tax, which includes small businesses, LLCs and subchapter S's and withholdings taxes. That all goes into that 50% personal income tax. Another third, about 33% on average, comes from the state sales tax. So when you add those two together, you get about 83%. That's where all our revenue comes from. All the other things, from the tobacco tax to alcohol to, we get like $250 million of property tax is all the state gets. You add all those together, it's still only 17%. Even the corporate income tax is only about 5%. So when we talk about revenues, when those drop, that explains our problem, or that, when those drop. We've never had the drop in personal income tax we've had over the last 2.5 years. A lot of reasons for that. And actually, the governor he has a volunteer council of economic advisors who are made up of the economists from Georgia State, and Kennesaw State, and University of Georgia, and the various universities around the state. They actually met yesterday, and I was at that meeting. And they basically, have analyzed where we are, and it basically say that the construction industry, particularly around the metro areas, and the home building industry statewide, that is a reaction to the tremendous population growth we've had. When the real estate boom stopped, and when credit dried up, and when foreclosures started, all of a sudden the home building market, the home construction market just went dead. And if you think about it, think about all the subcontractors it takes to build a house, from the sheetrock hangers to the electricians to the plumbers. When that ripple effect happened, you can see it down here, but it's really noticeable in the Atlanta area because of all that growth. When that stopped, it really stopped our state right where it was, and we've been sinking ever since. Sales taxes have actually kind of leveled out a little bit, and we're beginning to be at least flat there. but the tax that's generated by small businesses and by withholding taxes that businesses pay, which is directly tied to hiring and all these things, those are just really dried up. So I say all that to get to the point of where we are as a state. We of course cannot print money. I'm not going to criticize the federal government, frankly, because we could not have survived the last two budgets without the federal stimulus funds that the state received to help balance our budget. We couldn't survive. So I'm certainly not here to criticize the federal government. But having said that, we have to pass a balanced budget, first of all. And then if it doesn't balance, we have to put the money in to fill the hole. We cannot borrow from the future, and we cannot deficit spend. We don't have that option. So we spend a lot of time trying to be sure at the end of the year we balance out. It's not too big an issue when we have reserves, but we've used up, in the last two budgets, we've used up the state's $1.8 billion reserve. We've used it up, so it's gone. We've got about $100 million left. And frankly, last month's negative used up all that reserve. I mean, if it plays out to the end of the year. So we don't have a whole lot to fall back on. In fact, the only reserve we have today is the stimulus funds we had plugged into next year's budget, 11 budget. So when we move those, if we're going to be short, and I'll show you kind of where we are in just a second, we're going to be short at the end of this year, and if we move to fill that hole, we move those stimulus funds from the 11 budget, we just created another hole in the 11 budget, and it's actually cumulative because one of our problems this year is we didn't meet our revenue estimate last year, so we start out in a hole, and we'll start out in the hole again this year if that's the case. So this 2-week period we're having is to try to basically fill what we've determined is $1 billion hole.